swear to God, that was footsteps. This is definitely odd.
They're sneaking up on our deer, trying to take a shot.
Ryan Cooling is a YouTuber who loves fishing, camping, hiking, and hunting. He also records his adventures and shares them on YouTube. He makes a really awesome video, but during one of his hikes, he had an encounter that could have gone very differently. Brian said a mountain lion suddenly appeared behind him, and it got surprisingly close without making much noise. The scary part is, he didn't even know it was there at first.
Can you guys believe that? There's a mountain lion just walked up to me and just bedded down beside me. This is insane. I do have my bear spray ready, so if something happens, it's go time, but I don't want to run away too quick. Look at that. I had a feeling and I just kept looking up above me because I figured if he's curious, he might come back around and try and look at me from a vantage point, and there he is. It's kind of hard to see right there in the middle of the screen, that little white rock up on that moss bluff. You can see his head sticking right out there. Get out of here.
Brian kept his distance and tried not to make any sudden movements, but the mountain lion wasn't leaving. It just sat there, watching him and following his every move. Then Brian explained just how close the mountain lion had actually gotten. Earlier, he had stopped to set up his camera. While he was adjusting it, he heard a tiny stick snap behind him. He turned around, and the mountain lion was only about 10 feet away.
I stopped to set up a camera, and I messed around for about 15 minutes going back and forth, just sort of trying to get the angle and the spot and position, everything right to get the best videos that I possibly could. And that one time I walked back and I was just adjusting the camera over like an inch, and I heard a very small stick snap behind me. And I spun around, and there's this mountain lion like 10 feet behind me. Just came straight in behind me like on a string. And now if that was a bigger, mature animal, that would have been over. Like, that thing would have snuck in right on top of me and jumped on my back, and that would have been it. So
And that's what makes this encounter so scary. Brian was completely focused on his camera, while the mountain lion had quietly walked right behind him. He didn't hear it coming. He only noticed it because of one tiny snap. Luckily, the mountain lion eventually backed off and disappeared into the trees. Brian walked away without getting hurt. But this is a good reminder that when you're out in the wilderness, you never really know what's around you. Wild Pursuit is a YouTuber who usually makes hunting videos, but this time his trip turned into something completely unexpected. It was the first morning of archery season, so he got up early and headed into the forest. On the way there, he spotted several deer crossing the road. To him, it felt like a good sign.
Oh, and there's a deer two deer crossing the road right now. If that's not a sign, I don't know what is. Oh, there goes another doe. And there's another one over there. Yeah, so it is 7:05 and I'm just now on my way out.
A little later, he reached the forest and climbed into his tree stand. He had hunted in this area before, so he knew deer were often around. He grabbed his bow and waited.
Okay, so I'm up in the stand. I shot a buck 2 years ago, right there.
After some time, a large deer finally appeared below him. She slowly moved closer, and for a moment, he thought he might get a chance to take a shot. But when she noticed him, everything changed.
There was a really big doe in front of me, and I drew on her, and then she saw me, so we're in a stare down, and she started, I let my bow down because she was staring at me, and then she started walking away real slow, so I drew again, but as I drew back, my elbow hit the tree and knocked me off balance. And I tried grabbing onto a branch that was up in the tree right next to me, and it snapped as I grabbed onto it.
He decided to draw his bow one more time, but as he pulled back, his elbow hit the tree and knocked him off balance. He quickly reached for a nearby branch to catch himself, but the branch snapped. He was wearing a safety harness, but somehow it came undone. He then fell from the tree stand and hit the ground hard. Thankfully, things could have been much worse. There were no sharp branches underneath him, and he survived the fall. He was taken to the hospital and ended up with bruises and torn ligaments in his leg. Considering how dangerous that fall looked, he was incredibly lucky. He's now back home and continuing to make videos. But this accident is a good reminder that even something you've done many times can go wrong in a second. So if you're heading into the woods, wear the right gear, stay careful, and never assume you're completely safe. Arm's Family Homestead is a channel about simple country life, where the family shares videos about hunting, fishing, and working around their land. But during one hunting trip, a normal evening in the woods suddenly turned into a very dangerous situation. Daniel was out with his son when they noticed something strange happening near their property. Two armed men had walked onto the property and were getting closer to the deer. Daniel and his son stayed completely still, hoping the men would leave. But then, one of them raised his weapon.
These two dudes are fixing to be trespassers. They're sneaking up on our deer, trying to take a shot of the 3 deer that are right in front of us.
They better not.
You be still. You be still.
Don't do it. Look at these trespassers. They're climbing through the fence.
Be still. You stay here.
Hey! You better run, you piece of crap! Yeah, that's what I thought. Run, you little... Hey! You posted SOB? Get over here! Run, you little pansy! Keep running!
You see that? 2 guys. That's a public hunting area. 2 guys almost just shot Houston and I. We're sitting in a blind on top of this hill right here. And those 3 does standing in front of us, they literally walked across the first gate, which put them on the private property. The second gate is my gate. They leaned on that gate right there and took a shot at our deer in our field. I came out yelling, not nice words, not in a nice manner. And the 2 pansies took off running. I called the game warden, called the park rangers.
A moment later, a shot rang out. The bullet missed the deer, but it came dangerously close to Daniel and his son. As soon as the men realized they weren't alone, they turned around and ran. Daniel wasn't going to let them simply disappear. Daniel immediately reported what happened, and authorities were eventually able to track the men down. What makes this encounter so disturbing is that this wasn't just about trespassing. Someone had fired a gun while Daniel and his son were nearby, and the shot could have ended very differently. His son was left shaken by what had just happened, and honestly, it's easy to understand why. They went into the woods expecting a normal evening of hunting. Instead, they ended up in a situation where one careless shot could have changed everything. But this is a serious reminder that when firearms are involved, one bad decision can have life-changing consequences. Camper Vibe is a YouTube channel run by two women who love traveling, camping, and exploring the outdoors. One of them decided to spend a few nights camping alone in Deering Woods near Pluckley, England. She was looking for some peace and quiet, but there was one problem. She had no idea she was camping near a place famous for some very creepy stories.
This woodland sits just outside of a little village called Pluckley. Now, completely unknown to me when I arrived, Pluckley is Britain's most haunted village. In fact, with over 14 known ghosts, it has a spot in the Guinness Book of World Records confirming it's the most haunted place in the UK. If I'd have bothered with a quick Google search before I left, I would have seen these concerning articles. This one about the woods itself is my personal favourite. It goes on to read, "The ghost of a local highwayman robber who was captured, lynched and decapitated by angry villagers in the 18th century is said to wander the woodlands. However, the most terrifying stories about this woodland are undoubtedly the modern ones and do not involve ghosts but disturbingly unexplained deaths, murders and disappearances. And I'm going to be staying here, alone, in a tent."
At first, everything seemed completely normal. She set up her camp, made some dinner, and started a small fire. The only sounds around her were distant planes, birds, and the occasional gunshot from somewhere deeper in the woods. But as darkness started to settle in, the sounds around her became harder to explain.
I don't know if you can hear that, but obviously they're out shooting. I'm also under a flight path, so if you get any noise, it's the aeroplanes. Dinner tonight is going to be a simple affair. Meatballs and pasta out of a packet, love it, but I've got something much better planned for tomorrow night, but it's getting late, so don't judge me. There's only about 4 in here. Maybe 5. You can't waste good balls. Anyway, not bad at all. Could have done with a bit more in it, mind. Now pudding is not that glamorous either. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see. A Cadbury's Pot of Joy. Yogurt, basically. Chocolate yogurt. There is a lot of noises in these woods. Where's my spoon? It's getting cold. Oh, whoa. Get that fire going, I think. Now the rain, I think the rain stopped. Or it stopped enough for a fire anyway. Sounds like kids screaming. That's just a train. Is it a bird or is it kids screaming? That's a bird. That's a gunshot. I don't know if you're able to hear a lot of this, it's pretty distant, but it sounds like kids screaming.
She tried to ignore it and enjoy the fire. Eventually, she decided to get some sleep, but just as she was settling into her tent, she heard something that immediately caught her attention.
Honestly, I've never known the woods with so many strange noises. It's not just your normal birds and stuff and planes. There's a lot of planes. There's like this weird... Well, I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm tired, so I'm going to let this burn out in a bit, sit here and enjoy a fire for a little while and then, yeah, head to bed. The hammock's really comfy, thank God, so I should sleep well, I would think. Where's my big beam? What was that noise? This is definitely odd. I've got no idea if you guys heard that or not, but honestly, I don't like it, I'm going to be honest. It's not deer, like I know what deer sound like. I've spent so much time with deer.
She waited and listened, hoping it was just an animal, but the sound didn't feel familiar. She even went outside to check where it was coming from, but couldn't find anything. So she got back into her hammock and tried to sleep. Then, around 2 in the morning, she woke up again. This time, the noises were much closer.
I don't want to turn the light on because I'm pretty convinced there's been a person or persons. But that's just the house. I didn't want to turn the light on earlier because I swear to God that was footsteps. That's just the house, though. This is definitely the scariest night I've ever had in a tent. I'm sure I can still hear footsteps.
She stayed inside her hammock, listening carefully for a while. She couldn't figure out what was making the sounds. Then she heard what sounded like footsteps. Eventually, the night passed and daylight finally returned. When the sun came up, she was relieved to get out of the hammock. Whatever had been moving around her camp was gone, and she never found out exactly what it was. It could have been an animal. It could have been something completely normal that simply sounded strange in the darkness. Or maybe the stories about Deering Woods made everything feel a little more terrifying than it really was. Either way, spending a night alone in an unfamiliar forest is already risky. Add strange footsteps, unexplained noises, and complete darkness, and it's easy to understand why she couldn't wait for morning. Sometimes, the scariest part of camping isn't what you can see, it's what you hear when you can't see anything at all.